Hi, third graders. Welcome to lesson 16.2, converting hours and minutes. So when we say converting, that just means saying it in a different way. So instead of just saying hours, we can convert the hours into minutes. So since we already know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour, then we know another way to say 1 hour would be 60 minutes. Then if we were trying to figure out how many minutes are in 2 hours, all we would need to do is multiply 60 times 2. Another way to do that is to add 60 plus 60. So 60 plus 60 is 120. So that tells us that there are 120 minutes in 2 hours. Okay, so we can either add or we can multiply. And since we know our 6 facts so well, it should be pretty easy, hopefully, for us to convert our hours into minutes. And then also, we learned about abbreviations last week, remember, guys? So when we are talking about hours, we can abbreviate the word hour with an H, and we can abbreviate the word minutes with an M-I-N. So when we see an H, we know it's hour. M-I-N is minutes. Okay, let's look at number 1 down at the bottom. It says Jerry took 3 hours to do his homework. Geez, 3 hours to do his homework. You guys should feel lucky that I've never given you 3 hours of homework to do. Hopefully. Okay, so our little helper friend over here is reminding us to think about what 3 times 6 is. And that will help us since there are 60 minutes in an hour. So we know our 6 song, remember guys? 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Okay, so we know 6 times 3 is 18. Let me turn on my little tools. So if 6 times 3 is 18, then, well, if 3 times 6 is 18, then 3 times 60, we would just add a 0 to that. Right, guys? Because here we have 3 times 6, and it's 18. Now we have 3 times 60. Notice it's the same thing, just with a 0. So we're going to add a 0 over here. So we already figured out that 3 hours would be 60 plus 60 plus 60, which is 180. Okay, so you can do that by adding the minutes or by multiplying. And multiplying is actually a lot faster since we already know our 6 facts. So down here, 3 hours equals 3 times 60 minutes. We already know 60 times 3 is 180. So there are 180 minutes in 3 hours. Okay, moving on. This page bugs me because they spelled convert. They spelled it crunvert. It's very annoying. So they meant to say convert hours and minutes to just minutes. So let's see our example. Matt plays basketball for 1 hour, 10 minutes. How many minutes are in 1 hour and 10 minutes? Well, we know that 1 hour is 60 minutes. And then we just have to add that extra 10 minutes, and that gives us 70 minutes. So we know there are 70 minutes in 1 hour, 10 minutes. And this kind of reminds me when we've done number bonds and things like that, just separating it out into hours and minutes. We did this for milliliters and liters. We did this for grams and kilograms. Right, guys? So this should look pretty familiar to you. All right, so number 2 says Kevin's baseball game lasts for 2 hours, 30 minutes. How many minutes are in 2 hours, 30 minutes? So we're just going to separate it out. Our friend is reminding us that we're just separating it into 2 hours and then 30 minutes. So we just need to separate it out here. Let's turn on our tool. So we know we've got 2 hours, right? So 1 hour is 60, so that's 60 minutes. Plus another hour, that's another 60 minutes. Plus an extra 30 minutes. So we're basically doing 60 plus 60 plus 30. We know 60 plus 60 is 120. 120 plus 30 would be 150. And you can write that down on scratch paper if you need to figure it out that way. That's totally fine. So we just figured out there are 150 minutes in 2 hours, 30 minutes. All right, let's look at number 3. It says 2 hours, 45 minutes. We need to figure out how many minutes would that be. And our friend's reminding us that 2 hours would be made up of 2 times 60, since there's 60 minutes in an hour. So we know 2 times 60 is 120. So now we know we just need to add the 120 plus that extra 45. Okay, so if we add 120 plus 45, we get 165. So that means there are 165 minutes in 2 hours, 45 minutes. All right, and then number 4 is 4 hours, 28 minutes. And our little friend's telling us 1 hour is 60 minutes, so 4 hours would be 4 times 60 minutes. We know that 6 times 4 is 24, so 60 times 4 would be 240. Right, guys? It would be the same as 6 times 4, but with a little 0 at the end. So 60 times 4 is 240. So we know that 4 hours is made up of 240 minutes. And then we just need to add that extra 28 minutes to figure it out. And 240 plus 28 would be 268. So there are 268 minutes in 4 hours, 28 minutes. Okay, so we just converted hours and minutes to just minutes. So on this page, we're going to convert minutes to hours and minutes. So it's the exact opposite of what we just did. And notice they spelled convert wrong on this page as well. It says crunvert. Okay. Marshall takes 135 minutes to mow the lawn. Wow. Okay. How many hours and minutes are in 135 minutes? Okay, so now we need to kind of do it the opposite way, guys. So we have our 135 minutes. So we're going to look at this chart over here. And what they've done is they've just done 1 times 60 is 60, 2 times 60 is 120, 3 times 60 is 180. So we're going to do kind of what we did when we were learning our division with remainders. Remember that, guys? We looked at our chart. We found the highest number we could go to that doesn't go over what we're trying to find. And then we will subtract once we get that. That sounded confusing. So let me try to explain that in a different way. So we're starting with our 135 minutes. We know that there are 120 minutes in 2 hours, right? And we can use our chart to help us figure that out. And then what we need to do is, since we've got 135 and we only got to 120, we have to subtract to find out how many extra minutes there are. So we would just do 135 minus 120. Get my little tool. So minus 120. And if it doesn't just pop into your head that you know the answer, then we want to always write it down, right, guys, to make sure that we're doing it right. So 5 take away 0, we know is 5. And 3 take away 2 is 1. 1 take away 1 is 0, which we don't have to write if it's the first digit. So that gives us that 15 minutes. So that's where they're getting that, guys. So that means that there are 2 hours, 15 minutes in 135 minutes. And I like to try to think of real world examples where you might have to use something like this. And what I'm thinking of is when you're cooking. So when I turn on my oven, if something tells me that it has to be in there for, say, 1 hour, 30 minutes, on my oven, I need to know how many minutes total that is so that I can program in the minutes, because my oven won't let me type in 1 hour, 30 minutes. I have to know that there are 90 minutes in 1 hour, 30 minutes. So that's a real life example where you might use something like this. Okay, so number 5, Samantha plays the piano for 82 minutes. How many hours and minutes are in 82 minutes? So we're going to look at our chart. We have 82 minutes, right? So we know we can only go to 60. If we go to 2 hours, that's 120 minutes, and that's too long. So we know we've got 60 minutes right away, which is an hour, right? So now we just need to go, okay, what's 82 minus 60? That'll tell us how many leftover minutes are there. That's a horrible 2, guys. So 82 minus 60, if you can do this in your head, awesome. If not, just you would write it down. Okay, so 2 take away 0 is 2. Let's see if I can make a better 2. It's a little bit better. And 8 take away 6. Oh, I have one more chance. It's 2. Okay, that one's probably the best one. All right, so that gives us an extra 22. Okay, so we know 60 minutes is 1 hour, and we have a leftover 22 minutes. So there is 1 hour and 22 minutes in 82 minutes. Okay, number 6 says 90 minutes. So we need to figure out how many hours and minutes are in 90 minutes. So what we're going to do is look at our chart. We know we can only go to 60. If we go down to 120, we've gone too far and we're over, right? We went over 90. So we know it's just going to be 1 hour, and we know there's 60 minutes in that 1 hour. So what we need to do now, we've gotten to 60, but we are trying to get to 90. So we're going to do 90 take away 60. This one we can do in our head. 90 take away 60 is 30. So that means that 90 minutes would be 1 hour and 30 minutes. I just did that in my head because I just really didn't want to write with the tools. Okay, let's look at number 7, 130 minutes. Let's look at our chart. Get as close as we can to 130 without going over. It's going to be 120, right, guys? So we know that that would be 2 hours right there. That's gotten us to 120. So then we just have to do 130 minus 120, which would be 10. So that means it would be 2 hours and 10 minutes. Hi, Ro. Okay, let's look at number 8. It's 145 minutes this time. So we're going to look at our chart again, get as close to 145 as we can without going over. And it looks like, once again, it's going to be 2 hours, which gets us to 120. So we need to do 145 minus 120. And that's going to give us 5 take away 0 is 5. 4 take away 2 is 2. That means it's going to be 2 hours and 25 minutes. Okay, and then number 9, 192 minutes. So if we look at our chart, we can get to 180. If we were to go to 4 hours, that would be 240, which would be too high. So we know it's going to be 3 hours right away. And we know that in 3 hours, there are 180 minutes. So this time we would do 192 minus 180. And I just pressed the wrong button and all of our writing disappeared. That's okay though. We were just figuring out that 192 minutes is 3 hours And then 192 minus 180 is 12. So it's 3 hours and 12 minutes. Okay, just like that. All right, guys, here is the practice page that you're going to be doing that goes along with this lesson. And I'm going to help you out and do some examples so you know what you're doing here. So for 1 hour, 45 minutes, they just want you to split these guys into hours and minutes. And we know we can type anywhere you see a question mark. Right, so I'm just going to write my 1 hour and my 45 minutes. And that's all you're doing. So for this one, you're just separating it out into how many hours and how many minutes. Okay, these ones down here, it says complete each number bond. So what I'm going to do for these ones is I'm going to look at my little chart. This will be with your practice page, so you can use this to help you. So I'm going to look, I'm going to 75, so here is 60. I know if I go to 2 hours, that's 120, so that's too much. So I know it's only going to be 1 hour, so let's go back. So I know it's 1 hour, and I know that 1 hour is made up of 60 minutes. So I'm just figuring out how many extra minutes are there from 75 to 60. So 75 minus 60 is 15. So then it would be 1 hour and 15 minutes. Oh, okay. 1 hour and 15 minutes. So if that happens to you guys, all you need to do is drag this little guy over here so that it's bigger, so it doesn't go down to the next line down, which just looks kind of weird. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing with 140, so you can look on your chart, see how close can you get to 140 without going over, and then once you know you can get to 120, then you're going to subtract 140 minus 120 is going to be how many extra minutes you have. Okay, this one says express the time in hours, so you should be able to do that. 60 minutes, we should know how many hours that is. 120 minutes would be 60 minutes plus 60 minutes, and that's how many hours, guys. And then same thing here, 60 plus 60 plus, how many hours? And then down here at the bottom, we're converting hours and minutes into just minutes. So the first one says 4 hours, 33 minutes. So I'm going to look at my handy little chart. I know that 4 hours is made up of 240 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. So I know I've got 240 minutes plus that extra 33 minutes, which gives me a total of 273 minutes. Okay, and then you'll do the same thing for this one right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill in these guys so your little helper friends can help you out. All right, I'll see you guys soon.